I am a huge fan of the Batman Arkham series. While Arkham City is undeniably the best superhero game of all time, the original Arkham Asylum is my personal favorite. I thought Batman was pretty cool before, but this game turned me into a hardcore Batman fanatic. Before Arkham Asylum, the bar for games based on licensed comic book superheroes wasn't that high. And by that, I mean nobody expected for superhero games to be any good. It was always a pleasant surprise whenever a comic book game turned out to be okay. But if it was trash, you felt like a grade school teacher when little Timmy drew the old Nebraska state capitol on Amelia Earhart's face in the history book. I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. Then everything changed when Batman Arkham Asylum was released in 2009. After that, there was no excuse for making a bad superhero game. If the bar was low before, this game sent it skyrocketing into orbit. Arkham Asylum was so good that its influence extended past superhero games. 2014's Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor and 2015's Mad Max both use the counter-heavy combat system popularized by Arkham Asylum, which was itself influenced by the Spider-Sense mechanic in Spider-Man 2. Really, I can't praise the Arkham games enough. I mean, they're just so damn good. And the thing that blows my mind is the fact that Arkham Asylum was developer Rocksteady's first game. This is a brand new, unproven studio we're talking about here. Do you have any idea how rare it is for an unknown studio's first game to be this good? What the Whoa! What the fuck happened?
Vector?
What?
Arkham Asylum was not Rocksteady's first game. After the studio was founded in 2004, Urban Chaos Riot Response was released in 2006 for the PS2 and Xbox.
Wait, what? For real? Well, what the f*** are you waiting for? Spin that shit up. I gotta see this.
Verbal hostility detected. If you're going to act like a punk-ass bitch, do it yourself.
Come on, Spades. I was just kidding. Don't get your transistors all in it.
Eat shit protocol initiated. Shutting down.
Oh, that's... okay. That's just great. Real mature, Spades. Real mature! God damn it! How the fuck do you... Hundreds of light years from home. Who cares? Who fucking cares? Life support cuts out. See if I give a shit. I don't give a damn. Fuck it. A while back, somebody on the Dead Drop Discord asked me about rare and obscure PS2 games. After listing about 15 totally tubular games, I started to wonder if I missed anything, so I hopped into the Google Mobile and cruised over to some message boards. When I got there, I was shocked to discover people talking about this game Urban Chaos Riot Response. Shocked, I say. Search for this game on YouTube and look at some of the comments. The way people talk about this game, you'd think it was the best thing since this twerking dog.
Shake it, baby.
Again, that took me by surprise, cause I had heard of this game, but I guess I kinda blocked it out of my memory. I remember seeing the cover in a store and thinking it was the most generic, dollar store, two-piece chicken McGame I had ever seen. And it is all of those things. But I mean, it ain't bad. I'd even go so far as to say it's completely mediocre, but in a good way. Let me explain. In Urban Chaos, you play as Nick Mason, a member of the police department's controversial new Zero Tolerance Squad, known by its street name, T-Zero. Your job is to cleanse the city of a ruthless gang known only as the Burners. 4 hours later, the job's done. That's it. That's the entire plot. In a word, the story is minimalistic. In a game like this, a conspiracy-laden plot would just get in the way. It's a simple story for a simple game. The game has live-action cutscenes that play before each mission, and these all consist of a newscaster talking about how the Burners are tearing up the city and how T-Zero is under scrutiny for something police brutality, blah blah blah. And then, without fail, the news lady will get a report that the Burners are wrecking shit up right the f*** now, and that's the prompt for the next mission. At one point in the game, the Burners suddenly get access to military-grade hardware. Then in the next mission, the newscaster reports that the commander of T-Zero was arrested and the mayor's under investigation for embezzlement or some shit. And you're like, hold up, so the mayor directly funded a terrorist organization, then created an anti-terrorism unit to deal with the problem he created so he could make himself look like the city's savior and boost his approval ratings? Dang, that's crazy. Oh, but it gets even better. See, the next mission, the commander of T-Zero is conveniently released from custody due to lack of evidence or whatever. So your brain starts putting 2 and 2 together. Obviously, the commander is the actual leader of the Burners, and the final battle will be between you and your former mentor. It's a classic tale of betrayal. But no, nothing like that happens. Your boss gets arrested, and then he's released the next day. And that point is never brought up again. It's like the game's just telling you straight up that you're wasting your time watching these cutscenes. You're never gonna get these minutes of your life back, so just shut up and play the damn game. It begs the question, if the cutscenes are a bunch of worthless fucking bullshit, why did Rocksteady go through the trouble of including them in the first place? Actually, there's a pretty good reason for that, but it's not going to make any sense until I talk about the rest of the game. Next up, the graphics. The thing about the visuals in Urban Chaos is that they're laced with nuance, and the nuance is that they're fucking terrible. They suck. Especially for a game released towards the end of the PS2's life cycle. The PS2 was capable of some amazing stuff back in the day. Just look at Black, another FPS that has a ton of similarities to this game, and it came out a year before Urban Chaos. Well, the thing is, the graphics in Urban Chaos are bad on purpose. They're like strategically bad, in order to get everything running smoothly on a PS2. Both the PS2 and Xbox versions run at a steady 30 frames per second, which is enough to get the job done. Here's the game running on original PS2 hardware. As you can see, it's a blurry mess that makes you want to punch yourself in the twiddly dinks. The worst part about the graphics is the screen tearing. Just look at this. The two halves of this screen aren't even in the same hemisphere, and that makes the game feel choppy and jittery.
In the book of Sega Genesis, level 1, stage 3, it says, in the beginning, graphics look like dog doo-doo. Then the Lord said, let there be emulation. Can I get an 8-bit? Can I get an 8-bit?
Running Urban Chaos on an emulator is definitely the way to go. Not only is the screen tearing issue completely eliminated, playing at a higher resolution makes the models in the game look crystal clear. Notice how on the PS2, this guy's face is a blurry, garbled violation of the Geneva Conventions, while on an emulator it's just a nightmarish abomination from the Uncanny Valley. See? Drastic improvement. Even with the higher resolution and the stable frame rate, Urban Chaos is still an ugly-ass game, and it's not the kind of ugly like Rocksteady was doing that on purpose to establish a dark and gritty atmosphere to suit the tone of the game or anything like that. The game just looking like an ass. However, the graphics weren't bad enough to keep me from playing the game. The visuals aren't good because they're not trying to be. Urban Chaos looks just good enough for you to easily distinguish the environments and characters. In that sense, the graphics are only there to make the gameplay work. They're not meant to be a spectacle or a selling point on the back of the box. That said, the game uses this obnoxious simulated motion blur in the flybys that play before each mission, and the game tries to replicate heat distortion with a similar effect. That's the one thing that actively makes the game look worse, especially during the intro cutscenes when the camera's panning through the level, then it can get downright nauseating. Speaking of cutscenes, I gotta talk about these live-action FMVs and why you should never, ever do them. Or you should at least think twice about putting them in your game. If your cinematic sequences don't match the art style of your game, there's always going to be this disconnect deep down in your subconscious that prevents you from being fully immersed in the world the game's trying to build. Someday, game graphics are going to be indistinguishable from the real world, and when that happens, that'll be the day FMVs can be taken seriously. Until then, there's only 3 reasons to have them. Reason number 1, you're trying to be funny or make fun of your own creation. In other words, you're communicating to your audience not to take the game too seriously and just have fun with it. Reason number 2, you're a small studio with a limited budget and an even more limited development time frame. The third reason's the most important of all, but it's related to every other design decision made about this game, so I'm gonna save that for the end. Next up, let's talk sound. I don't got a lot to say about the sound in this game, so I'm gonna make this quick. Since this is a first-person shooter, the thing you're gonna be hearing more than anything are the firearms. Most of the guns go bang bang real nice, except for the pistol you start with, which should go boom boom, but instead goes pow pow. Still, the guns in Urban Chaos sound a hell of a lot more powerful than a lot of modern games, and that's an accomplishment. In terms of the guns, the explosions, and the other general sound effects, I think Rocksteady absolutely nailed it. The music's also nothing to write home about, except for the song used for the main menu theme. Check it out.
Now don't believe I can become like my daddy was by my mother.
Not gonna lie, I nod my head and tap my gravity boots whenever I hear this song. It's a rockin' tune, but so is this.
America, fuck yeah!
The stars and stripes waving in the background, and the fact that Rocksteady's a British studio all made the tone they were going for pretty clear. The game's a parody of American law enforcement, and an effective one at that. Once you accept that fact, you can turn your brain off. Then the crazy lines the gang members yell at you become less annoying and start to become hilarious. Listen to this.
I'm getting out of this place. When I do, we're gonna fuck this city.
God damn, the whole city though? That seems a bit excessive. Anyway, just like the graphics, the sound effects, voice acting, and music are nothing special by today's standards, but they're a hell of a lot better than a lot of other games that were released during the same era. So what about the game? Is the gameplay a parody too? Well, in a manner of speaking. Urban Chaos is a pretty by-the-numbers FPS, so when it comes to weapons, all the usual suspects are here. You got your pea shooter, scattergun, Ratataticus Maximus, Ratataticus Minimus, and several different variations of Chuck-a-Boom. You chuck them, they go boom. Simple, right? Seeing as you can't take too much damage before biting the dust, the game gets pretty close to tactical shooter territory. In response to being a walking porcelain doll, you're given a standard issue riot shield that is bulletproof, bomb-proof, and battering ram resistant. At any time, you can bring up your shield to block damage coming from anywhere on the screen. While the shield is active, you're still vulnerable to attacks coming from off-screen, so you have to strategically position yourself so that enemies are always directly in front of you. The riot shield sets this game apart from other shooters, but in a weird way. See, technically, Urban Chaos is a cover-based shooter like Uncharted or Gears of War. The difference is that you carry the cover with you wherever you go. But throughout the game, you're still popping in and out of cover to take pot shots at enemies. Unlike some games that let you use a pistol at the same time as the shield, in this game you can either shoot or hide, never both. On the plus side, you can draw any weapon in your arsenal within a split second of lowering your cover, which is the best way to score easy headshots when you're under a lot of fire. Normally that would be pretty cool, but it just so happens the pistol you start with is the most effective weapon in the game, even before you unlock any upgrades for it. Oh right, the upgrades. So, the entire game is based around collecting medals you get for achieving objectives in each of the levels. Collecting a certain number of medals will upgrade your weapons or increase your health or ammo capacity. And the cool part is, once you unlock an upgrade, it stays unlocked when you go back to play earlier levels. I love it when games do that. The bonus objectives include getting a certain number of headshots and using your taser to take dudes out non-lethally. So, take headshots for example. Imagine headshots are experience points and the medals are level ups. The catch is, once you get all the medals on a certain level, the only way to get more is to play that level again on a higher difficulty. In a lot of ways, I think this system's better than most games where every enemy's worth the same number of XP. In Urban Chaos, you can't just grind the easiest level a million times, you have to get good at the entire game. It's a damn shame then that every time you pull off a headshot, you're treated to this obnoxious ass banner that takes up a bunch of screen real estate, and you gotta get like a shit ton of headshots to make those medals. In one level it felt like I had to take out every single enemy with a bullet to the brain to get that bonus objective. The controls are what make this way more difficult than it needs to be. I messed with the sensitivity settings for about an hour, and I did everything I could to get a keyboard and mouse working through the emulator, but no matter what I did, I could never get aiming to feel right. Luckily, sometimes when you pull off a headshot, you're treated to one of these. Hot damn, that never gets old. Wait, did I say it never gets old? No, it gets old, like, very quickly. So, I lied. Aiming in this game is a major inconvenience, but it still didn't stop me from playing through the entire campaign. Then I went back to finish a few levels on the highest difficulty. Overall, Urban Chaos is a completely adequate game. Yeah, there are some annoyances, but no game is without its flaws. It's nowhere close to the best games on PS2, but it's not trying to be. The game was specifically designed to be an average shooter. So, why would a developer make a mediocre game on purpose? I mean, when Rocksteady was founded in 2004, you had tons of excellent console shooters to pull inspiration from. Halo 1 and 2, Red Faction, Time Splitters, Rainbow Six 3, I could go on for days. But Urban Chaos feels like it's trying to reinvent the wheel in a lot of cases when Rocksteady could have just used a better game as a template. I reached out to some of the developers at Rocksteady for comment, but as of this video, I haven't heard anything back. If anybody who worked on this game sees this video and wants to offer some insight, I'm all about it. Until then, this is just an educated guess based on 20 years of industry research. This is the original Urban Chaos, made by Monkeyfoot Productions and published by Eidos in 1999. A year later, it was released for the PS1 and Dreamcast. Ever hear about this game? Neither have I. It's a pretty obscure title, and it doesn't help that Square Enix had the game taken off of GOG and Steam because of licensing issues. Back when Riot Response was being developed, it was initially known as Roll Call. Then the design of the game changed completely, so Rocksteady changed the name to Zero Tolerance. But they couldn't copyright the name because of a Genesis game with the same title. So Eidos figures they got this Urban Chaos IP and they're not doing anything with it, so lo and behold, the name changes a second time. This kind of thing used to be a really common practice. A publisher hands an underperforming IP to a new developer to see what they can do. It's not a big deal because the previous games weren't making any money, so there's no way for a new game to ruin the franchise. If it's good, awesome. If it bombs, who cares? They're right back to where they started. This is how you wind up with more experimental games that push the envelope, like 2012's Spec Ops: The Line. That game did great critically, but it didn't sell too well, and that's why it never got a sequel. On the bright side, because the publisher was willing to take some risks, the developers didn't have to play it safe. They were able to make something truly unique with artistic merit. So what artistic merit does Urban Chaos bring to the table? Well, to me, the game's greatest achievement is the fact that it exists in the first place. Sometimes a developer will put together what I like to call a resume game. This is a simple game meant to demonstrate to a publisher that your studio has the ability to launch a game under a strict deadline with a minimal budget. Successfully shipping a product to game stores and in consumers' hands is difficult as shit, so just showing that your studio can get a project off the ground is good for your company image. In the case of Urban Chaos, Rocksteady was able to get a first-person shooter to market on 2 consoles with multiple weapons, replayable levels, cutscenes that play in between each mission, havoc physics, and on top of all that, they were even able to get networked multiplayer working. For a studio's first game, that's a baller-ass move, especially when you know how often other studios fail when trying to accomplish a hell of a lot less. Even if the end result isn't Game of the Year quality, every feature that a development studio is able to implement gives them bragging rights. In addition to that, the studio also learns valuable lessons about the do's and don'ts of console development. Next time they stepped up to the negotiating table, they could point to their last game and say, here are the things we did right, here are the mistakes we made. We were able to do all this in 18 months. Imagine what we could do with 2.5 years. Any publisher who sees that is going to be impressed. And that's why when Rocksteady went to Eidos and said, hey, we were thinking of making a Batman game, the suits with the money said, well, what the fuck are you waiting for? I really gotta give Rocksteady a hand. Urban Chaos is a highly playable game, and I'm glad I got a chance to play it before the inevitable heat death of the universe. Looking back, I definitely wouldn't have appreciated it when it first came out back in 2006. Honestly, the reviews for this game weren't that hot, and when you're a kid and you can only afford 1 game purchase a year, you gotta make it count. 2006 was the year Ninja Gaiden Black came out, so Urban Chaos could have come with a mail-in rebate for $1 million and a BJ, and it still would have looked like gutter trash next to Ninja Gaiden. Besides that, as you can see from the vomit-inducing box art, you play as a police officer in this game. Having been raised by Grand Theft Auto, I wouldn't have played this game anyway, based entirely on the premise of fuck the police.
Fuck the police!
Yeah! One thing I found weird while playing this game was the fact that it's called Urban Chaos Riot Response, but you don't actually respond to any riots. The Burners Gang aren't rioters, they're domestic terrorists. As someone who incites riots for a living, let me tell ya, there's a huge difference. Regardless, whether they're rioters or terrorists, the major component that's missing from the antagonist in this game is a motive. I understand how the Burners are gonna fuck the city, what I don't understand is why. Usually, people rise up in revolt because of some perceived injustice by the so-called powers that be. If the Burners were lashing out because of police brutality, that would have been a compelling story, because with that comes the guilt that, as a law enforcement officer, you're complicit in the government's corruption. And that leads to this vicious cycle where crime exists specifically because of your chosen methods for fighting it. That kind of storyline has found its way into Batman comics for the past few decades, and since the people at Rocksteady are experts on that subject, I'm sure that idea crossed their minds while they were working on the Arkham games. If Rocksteady was ever given the chance to work on another Urban Chaos, that's the direction I think they should take it. As a resume game, though, it wouldn't have made sense to have a thought-provoking story with a political message, cause that wasn't the objective. The point behind this game was to just get it to work and then get it on store shelves. So in that regard, I think Rocksteady passed with flying colors. The fact that Urban Chaos is a genuinely fun game, that's just a bonus objective.
Fry, you bastard! Good afternoon. This is Sally Taylor, reporting live from the Hendricks building. My life has just been saved by heroic T-Zero member Nick Mason. Just minutes ago, Nick Mason stormed the room in which I was being held and single-handedly rescued me from what I had assumed was a certain death.